Greetings, friends. Welcome to the What's Right show. Happy Juneteenth, whatever the hell that is. Sam Mirejovsky here, News Talk 840 KXNT. We are working, even though it is a station holiday. We felt that it was the right thing, Robbie and I, to press forward with the show, given everything that is going on out there. Now, I'll get to as much of it as I can. I have to start by saying that I sat down, watched the Tucker Carlson interview, the now vaunted, much talked about, much discussed interview, sit down with Ted Cruz. I remember yesterday when we went on air, the full episode dropped approximately an hour beforehand. And I explained, I begged of your mercy that I didn't have time to watch it before we went on air. Here on the What's Right show, we pride ourselves on up-to-the-minute news and reaction to the news, but you know, sometimes I just can't get to everything. So regardless, now it is out. And it pains me to say this because I stand by what I said yesterday. I like Tucker Carlson, but he's an idiot. I can't believe I'm saying that. The guy, absolutely idiotic, because the buried moment, the single most unbelievable thing inside the interview is a conversation about attempts made on Trump's life by people affiliated with the Iranian regime. And you have, you have this, okay, and I got to back up here a moment and explain what I mean by this. There is obviously, and many of you feel this way or on one side or the other of it, a debate within, the Make America Great Again movement, America First, the new Republican Party. We have a disagreement right now about what to do with Iran. And on one side, you have the people that are more interventionist, and I certainly, candidly, I'm palms up here about this. I belong more in that camp. And then you have folks, of course, like Tucker and Matt Walsh and others who are fiercely anti-intervention anywhere, really, for any reason, unless clearly defined national interests are at stake. So that's the debate. And one thing I noticed kind of right when I was on the show, I saw that Matt Walsh had responded. He'd already seen the interview by the time I was, talking about everything else going on yesterday during the program. And his response was, well, listen, if I'm absolutely convinced if Iran is trying to kill our president, if Iran is looking to take out Trump, then by all means we should be we should be at war with Iran. And the craziest thing to me now is that I thought everybody understood this fact as obvious. I mean, there were Iranian agents arrested and charged with attempts on Trump's life. Pompeo, Bolton, everybody. I mean, it is a known fact. Not limited to the, to the skiff debriefing rooms in the halls of Congress, but open and notoriously known through reputable media sources that this was the case. And the only reason it was downplayed and it wasn't, front page news is because the mainstream media was quietly cheering on the Iranians and didn't want to be too obvious about it. And in the midst of a presidential election, the media, who was obviously rooting first for Biden and then for Kamala Harris, didn't want to, engender any sympathy for Trump and talk too much about the fact that he was the subject of, plots against his life by foreign adversaries. Imagine this, right? If CBS reported on that a little too much, people might be convinced, hey, if the bad guys want to kill this guy, maybe this guy, being Trump, is not that bad after all. So beyond just sympathies, lend some credibility to Trump's foreign policy chops that he is the less desired of the two options. So undesired that, in fact, that they would attempt to scheme to be rid of him. So this is, I mean, to me, this was always obvious. Now, this may shock some of you. I don't think that the answer to this knowledge is to drop a nuke on Iran, okay? And guess who suggests this, by the way? Why am I saying that? It literally is something Tucker Carlson brings up. There is a moment, and I'll play it for you in a minute. We'll get to it. I'll get you exactly the clip so you can judge for yourselves. But my preamble to this, my setup to it is very straightforward. I don't think that the answer to credible threats on Trump's life, scheming by the Iranian regime to take out our president, now as president and previously as a candidate, is that the right answer to that is leveling the country. Because let me just, this is the wild part. I realize so many of you are not interested in regime change, or at least the U.S. participating in it. But the Iranian people, my belief is, are a completely different lot than the people of Afghanistan, than the people in Libya, than the people of Iraq. And every effort to compare them to these countries is, I think, is actually very ignorant of who the Iranians are, who the Persians are. I think it's a society, yes, 90 million people, fine. I think there is a capacity to have a significant portion of the people want to see a more secular regime, that the Persians are themselves a secular people held hostage by religious fanatics. We saw a popular uprising a few years back that was crushed. We see opposition. We have an organized government in exile. There is a leader who wants to play nice with the West. His daughter, I don't know if you saw this 3 weeks ago, his daughter married a Jew. He has a Jewish son-in-law, the Shah of Iran. I mean, can you imagine the Middle East with Iran being led by a secularist? I don't care if he's an authoritarian. I'm not looking to establish democracy. I don't care if he goes in and has a secret police force that goes out and cracks it. I'm not here to pass judgment on how they run their country. But what I want to see for me, my family, and the safety of my country and of the world is the mullahs to be gone. So nuking Tehran, dropping bombs, like carpet bombing the population, eradicating Persian society because they're getting, this is foolish. And Tucker literally comes out and says this in the interview. It's mind-boggling. Robbie and I listened to this, and both of us, I mean, sometimes we have our disagreements. And it's interesting, folks, a little peek behind the curtain. Robbie's certainly much more of a libertarian than I. I think actually, Robbie, we now see more eye to eye on things than we maybe perhaps ever have, or have certainly for the past 15 years or so. But regardless, right? Robbie's not an interventionist. I'm not, I'm probably more favored, but we generally agree that, something has to be done here. But the real problem is the people that want to kill our president are developing a nuke. That to me continues to be the most pressing issue. There are a lot of people out there that want to kill Trump. There are crazy liberals. There are people living next door to you that want to kill Trump. It's, do they have the capacity to do so? Now, certainly a rogue state, Islamic fanatics that are, that have that, the Islamic fatalism thing going for them. Not good to have those people, be the subject of their ire, but arming them with a nuke, letting them develop that's not good. To me, that's the triggering moment, right? That's the issue. So when we come back, let me go take a break, and let me get to this moment in the interview, because this is what everybody ought to be talking about. And if you find yourself agreeing with Tucker Carlson, I have a few things to say about it. And hear me out. Because to me, this is where the anti-interventionists, the holdouts, the America First holdouts I think this is a bridge too far, in my humble opinion. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Be back in a moment.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Great to have you with us. So there was a long sit down the other day, released, by the way, just before we went on air yesterday, a sit down between Tucker Carlson interviewing Senator Ted Cruz. What did I say about it yesterday, Robbie? I said that it was the kind of gotcha journalism. I was just based on the one clip where, where Tucker tries to embarrass Ted Cruz, who is not a fool. Okay, he's a lot of things. I get it. It kind of irritates me sometimes, but he's not an idiot. Tucker tries to embarrass Ted Cruz with this. You don't know anything about Iran. By the way, time out here. Remember that clip? I mean, we're not going to play it again, but it was the one where, well, do you even know the makeup of Iran? Do you know what people are? What are they? And do you know that the answer that Ted Cruz gave is like absolutely correct? He's like, I don't know the population. Well, what are they? Well, they're Shia, Persian, predominantly Shia. I mean, true, right? Fact check, true. But the whole point, the clip that was designed, the tease clip, was designed to make a fool of Ted Cruz. Now, my opinion is that now that, the whole interview's out there, the fool is Tucker Carlson. And it pains me, actually hurts me to say that I think that this was idiotic. This particular moment, if there was one moment where Tucker looks like a complete and utter moron, it's here. I'll see what you think.
But I just want to pull that thread because it's so important. I voted for Donald Trump. I campaigned for Donald Trump. Yeah. He's our president. And we're on the cusp of a war. So if there's evidence that Iran paid hitmen to kill Donald Trump and is currently doing that, where's that? Like, what are you even talking? I've never heard that before.
Okay.
Where's the evidence? Who are these people? Why haven't they been arrested? Why are we not at war with Iran?
That's a great question to ask.
How do you know that that's true?
We know that it's true because we have been told that by the military and our intelligence community for the last 2 years.
We meaning who?
Congress has and the public. I mean, we had multiple testimonies. I can send you testimony.
Do we know the names of the people or where this happened or what they tried to do to kill Trump?
We do not. We have not apprehended an Iranian hitman trying to kill him. We know that Iran is trying to do so.
In the United States?
Yes. And by the way, like Iran...
This just seems like a huge headline, and you're acting like everyone knows this. I didn't know that.
Iran put out a whole video about murdering Trump.
Right, but I've never heard evidence that there are hitmen in the United States. I mean, trying to kill Trump right now. We should have a nationwide dragnet on this, and we should attack Iran immediately if that's true. Don't you think?
No.
If they're trying to assassinate our president?
They have been for 2 years.
Then why aren't we at war with them?
Well, we are trying to.
Why don't we just nuke Tehran if they're trying to murder our president? There's nothing that you could do that would be worse for the United States than murdering Trump. And I just don't understand why you're not calling for the use of nuclear weapons against the Ayatollah right now. I'm serious. If you really believe they're trying to murder
the use of nuclear weapons,
whatever
that's part
it
of the
takes.
problem of. So
what do you mean? You don't seem to take the allegations seriously. I do. If you believe they're trying to murder Trump, we need to stop what we're doing and punish them.
What? I don't. Tucker Carlson's like, wow, nuke Iran. "Oh, if they're trying to kill our president, then all of a sudden he's turning into John Bolton." Folks, do you understand how hard I really am? When I say this show is common sense conservatism, that's all I can bring you. I don't. I know that the Iranians are trying to kill Trump. You know this too. Let me pull up. Where's my stack of stuff here? Here's a article. By the way, cute, again, to back up my point, this is 3 days after the election. Of course, the BBC, Madeleine Halpert, from New York, writing, the U.S. government has brought charges against an Afghan national in connection with an alleged Iranian plot to assassinate Donald Trump before he was elected the next president. The Department of Justice on Friday unsealed an indictment against Farhad Shakiri, 51, alleging he was tasked with providing a plan to kill Trump. This is the Biden Justice Department that wanted to jail Trump for the rest of his natural life. They discovered this plot. The BBC printed it. And in a typical Biden administration double finger FU, didn't unseal the indictment until after the election was over. Not going to analyze that any more than I did in the previous segment. But this is a note, and for Tucker Carlson to say, "Whoa, Ted Cruz, well, I didn't know that. And if that's true, well, we should just bomb Ted." So right now we had Tucker Carlson admitting that based on evidence that we now have that is not really in dispute, we should be bombing Tehran. It doesn't seem very common sense to me. And I think this is the biggest news today. I mean that in no hyperbole. Literally the leader of not engaging in what is going on in Iran, the leader of the non-interventionist camp, just put himself out there as being on the record for wanting to bomb Iran into the Stone Age, subject to X being true, and X being true is them plotting to kill the president, which is already, not really in doubt. So the conditions, subsequent actually has already been fulfilled. And I find myself of the belief that actually the trigger here is not something that I already knew about, but rather the fact that, people that want to do this kind of harm to us are, should not be, not have a weapon of mass destruction. I'm just, throwing that out there. To me, that's the triggering event. And the fact that the Israelis right now are doing the dirty work on our behalf and have brought, in my opinion, the Iranian regime that wants to do this to Trump to its, have brought the regime to its knees and absolutely are, in my view, strategically winning this war. I don't know. I mean, shouldn't that be celebrated? And yet all of these non-interventionists are out there, kind of got this, the Jews and Netanyahu and that guy, and and remember Iraq, remember his testimony in Congress, and all the stuff that keeps getting rehashed. And as I explained yesterday, by the way, the Netanyahu, he was literally asked by the Bush people to give that testimony to bolster the credibility of the Bush administration case, the Bush CIA case for taking out Saddam Hussein. And he did it, by all accounts, reluctantly, but he did it as a political favor. As somebody who, was a conservative, government official at the time, out of office, was not prime minister. Ariel Sharon was prime minister. But, and then that's the history of it. But and all of these people, from Tucker to Cernovich to Matt Walsh, we'll call them, luminaries in the America First movement have all come out with these ridiculous positions now. And I'm sorry, I don't suffer fools. So that is where we're at. And I mean, we'll get into the polling. There's more polling, more development on this. Even CNN is shocked. But then we also, you got to understand Iran. And I know a lot of Iranians who have contacts in the country. It's not Afghanistan, not Libya, not Iraq. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam and Ash Injury Law, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Juneteenth today, we are in studio doing the show because I don't think this is a real holiday, no matter what Joe Biden said or didn't say about it. Juneteenth, by the way, marks the day in 1865 when Union soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced there the end of slavery. This was more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. It was a regional celebration. Most people outside of the South had no idea this actually existed before it became a federal holiday in 2021 under President Joe Biden. Typical par for the course. Remember, Democrats are always about symbolic gestures toward minorities without actually providing any help for them. So my email, sam@whatsrightshow.com, sam@whatsrightshow.com. Email me comments, concerns. Hey, if you enjoyed the program, let me know. If you hate me, let me know. Those are sometimes my favorite emails, I have to admit. By the way, on X, you can also find me at What's Right Sam. You know, I'm just discovering that there's all these hidden direct messages that I'm trying to get through and respond as best as I can. So just forgive me if you've reached out to me on X. I am slowly working through a backlog there, but I do look at all those personally. Okay. This situation with the Iranians. Let me say something to Tucker Carlson, who seems to think, per his comments in the interview with Senator Ted Cruz the other day, that he seems to believe that the Iranians, given that they have been engaged in efforts to kill President Trump, that deserves a strong military response. Tucker Carlson literally in that interview says, well, we should drop a nuke on them, quote unquote. Now, the plots, by the way, there's the 2024 indictment that came out right after Trump won the election, not before, held back by the Department of Justice under Joe Biden. There's also the plot against John Bolton. There were charges in 2022. Shahram Poursafi, a member of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, was charged with plotting to assassinate Bolton. So Bolton, of course, was Trump's national security advisor 2018 to 2019. Poursafi allegedly offered up to $300,000 to contacts in the U.S. to carry out the murder. Poursafi is believed to be in Iran, remains at large. That indictment is open. Mike Pompeo also targeted. There were so look. I mean, it's public declarations. The Iranian leaders, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, have made statements indicating a desire for revenge against Trump and targeting them. So this is all pretty normal now, and incontroverted. Now, one thing that, and it's tough to do these surveys, right, of Iranian attitudes because, again, it's a closed country, but this is people that are outside and inside of the country. In 2022, the end of 2022, so let's say two and a half years ago, they asked 200,000 people, 158,000 people inside Iran, and 42,000 respondents from outside of the country. Question: Islamic Republic, yes or no? You want the mullahs, you want the ayatollahs, or you want to do away with it? Inside Iran, 81% no, 15% yes, 4% don't know. What do you think the percentage was for Iranians living abroad? Yes, you guessed it, 99%. They hate their regime so much that, remember in 2022, they cheered for the U.S. to beat the Iranian team in the soccer cup. Inside Iran, 46% said they feel happy the soccer team of the Islamic Republic of Iran lost against the United States. And 23% of those in the country were sad about the game's outcome. And they hate the nuclear deal. Inside Iran, 62% agree with ending negotiations to revive the joint nuclear deal, while 6% disagree with ending the negotiation. In other words, 62% of the country is like begging the West to come in and end the Islamic republics, their government's nuclear ambition. So what do I think is the common sense approach here? What do I think Trump should do? I think Trump should do what I think he's going to do, which is go in, take out the nuclear program. Any engagement, any kinetic, fighting, conflict with the Islamic Republic should be narrowly tailored to avoid doing harm to the civilian population. Let the regime fold, and then do to the regime what the French did in 1978-79 when they sent in, the Ayatollah on an Air France flight. Yeah, just deliver the Shah into Iran, provide him security. I'm absolutely good with that because there's going to be agents of the regime remaining for a period of time, and it may be, kind of a precarious situation, but install the Shah for all I care. Hey, let him return, let him reclaim the government, and let the Iranians take care of it. This is a common sense approach. There wasn't a sophisticated diaspora living internationally, primarily, by the way, in the United States, like the Iranians have here now. This didn't exist during the Iraq War. There wasn't a group of people waiting to take over for Saddam. And Afghanistan is the most primitive place on the planet. I mean, Robbie, you've been there. I can't even say that. Primitive? I don't think that even begins to describe it. So these are the things that I think about. This is my approach to it. This is why this is different from Iraq, and why it's different from Libya and different from Afghanistan, to me, in a very major way. Okay. Now, it's and now what do the rest of the people? What do people think here in the U.S.? Right. This is the interesting thing. So the Trafalgar polling for the Iran nuclear weapon opinion. This is conducted over the past, let's see, from the 15th to the 16th. So this is about 3 days old. Likely general election voters, not Republicans, not Democrats, everybody. Okay. 74% approve of President Trump's position that Iran must be prevented from developing a nuclear weapon. That's huge. And here, by the way, CNN, Harry Enton, Laura Coates talking about this. This was yesterday on air on CNN, and it's pretty clear what people think, and they're even reporting it on the Communist News Network.
And overall, I feel like there's more support for Donald Trump's positions than is comically acknowledged. Oppose Iran getting a nuclear weapon. I mean, look at this. 79% of adults agree on that. They agree with Donald Trump. Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. 83% of Republicans, 79% of independents, 79% of Democrats. When you get 79% of Democrats and 83% of Republicans agreeing on anything, you know that position is the very clear majority in this country. And so the American public is with Donald Trump. They definitely oppose Iran getting nuclear weapons.
Any questions about that? Now, strikes on Iran, military action. also has broad support. And Harry Enton gets into that again yesterday on CNN.
Trump and Netanyahu both arguing that Iran is close to being capable of making a nuclear weapon. If that is the case, what is the feeling of Americans as to whether the United States should get involved in this conflict?
Right. If you buy Donald Trump's theory of the case, and I think that's important to note, this is polling from April. If Iran's trying to make a nuclear weapon, look at this. Overall, you get the slight plurality. I mean, it's within the margin of error, but the slight plurality of Americans actually favor U.S. airstrikes compared to 47% opposing it. Now, here's the other nugget I'll note, right? There's been a lot of talk online and on social media and in podcasts of a divide within the Republican ranks. But here on this question, if Iran's trying to make a nuclear weapon, look at that. 69% of Republicans, the clear vast majority of Republicans, favor U.S. airstrikes on Iran, on their nuclear facilities. But there is this substantial minority, 27%, who oppose such an idea. So it's not surprising you're hearing those other voices besides Donald Trump out there. There are plenty of them in the Republican ranks who oppose the U.S. striking Iran if they're trying to make a nuclear weapon. But the clear majority of Republicans are with Donald Trump if, in fact, Iran is trying to make nuclear weapons. They do, in fact, potentially favor U.S. airstrikes.
Now, I mean, it's an interesting data point to see where the mood of the country is, because if you do spend time talking to influencers in the political movement, as I do, and you spend time, on social media and viewing what is on there, even particularly from people on our side with whom we have some political allegiance, you'd think that it was within the Republican side a 50-50 issue, right? And I think today is going to be the turning point. Again, I always try to look ahead. I always try to tell you things, before they happen. I watched that interview. I think Tucker is influential. Tucker's approach to this and him saying and admitting in a very belligerent way to Ted Cruz that, well, if the Iranians are going to kill, if they're trying to, that's news to me, but if Iranians trying to kill Trump, then we by all means should bomb them into the Stone Age. Nuke them, he literally says. Just disqualified Tucker's opinion on this whole thing. And disqualifies much of the MAGA right opposition, because what are you going to say if you've got a country out there that literally wants to take away our president? You can't be mad at Biden. Okay, there's people out there who want Biden to go to jail over what he did, over the lawfare waged against Trump. They tried to imprison our president. They went after Trump. And we have some very strong feelings about Joe Biden, about, Jack Smith, about, Merrick Garland, and all these people. Okay. And rightly so. I think some heads should roll on that too. And all of a sudden we're going to turn around and go, well, Iran's out there wants to kill our president. We're going to be like, well, yeah, but wait, the Jews, right? I don't think I have a lot of crossover here between my audience, you folks, and maybe Team Candace Owens. But God, there is some vile, idiotic stuff out there, and I'm actually sad that Tucker is starting to kind of go off into that deep end. It pains me. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. If you've been in an accident, you've been hurt, get advice, get some legal advice. There's a lot of different things out there that you don't know, and you need to know if you're going to do things the right way. Call Sam & Ash Injury Law, whether you're in California or Nevada, 702-820-1234. Offices in both states ready to help. 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. Robbie, what's the last movie you've seen in a movie theater? I don't know. I can't remember the last time I went to a movie theater to see a movie. but it reminds me of a great movie that I remember seeing when it came out in the theaters. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT, sam@whatsrightshow.com is my email. Friends, once upon a time, and Robbie, maybe you went with me to this. I think you might have. Did we go and see Tropic Thunder together when it came out? I think we did. It was a whole bunch of us from work. We went after the work day. I think this is before we were doing the show. At any rate, we went out. The movie came out. Tropic Thunder, if you haven't seen the movie, is really funny. And the thing is, I remember it was like 6 of us that went to that thing, and I was asphyxiating, laughing. Now, in the movie, there is a series of famous actors playing a series of famous actors. So you have, like Ben Stiller, for example, is playing an actor who is doing this terrible movie about Vietnam, and and Jack Black is in it. It's a great cast. Ben Stiller, is just as the actor that he is portraying in this movie has just come off a previous project, a movie that was a flop. And Robbie, do you remember the name of this movie? Because I'll never forget. Simple Jack was the name of the movie. And so Ben Stiller's, and everybody's ribbing him. You're like, God, it was, that was the worst. That was the worst. Okay. And they're like, oh, what did you, and the movie, of course, bombed in the box office. So Simple Jack is the movie. And the movie is, we find out from a preview that is kind of a fake preview that's shown at the beginning of the movie. The movie is about a guy who's developmentally disabled, hard R retarded. And Robert Downey Jr., who plays this award-winning actor, Kirk Lazarus in the movie, tells Ben Stiller's character, who's playing this kind of third-rate actor, Tug Speedman, telling him, you never go full retard. And it's a line in the movie. Now, okay, I'm just setting this. It's funny as all hell. Now, this is what comes to my mind when I watch Whoopi Goldberg. I have to tell you, folks, this moment on The View was nothing short of absolutely spectacular. This was yesterday. She's talking to a woman here on the show who is from Iran, and they start to argue about what is what it's all about. Listen to this.
And it's slow.
But let's just remember, too, the Iranians literally throw gay people off of buildings. They don't adhere to basic human rights.
Listen, here's the thing. Let's not do that, because if we start with that, we have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
Where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing compared to the United States.
Keep hanging black people. So
it is not even the same. I couldn't step foot during this.
Wait. That's not what you mean to say. It is the same.
No, it's not. The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
Killed for I'm sorry.
Well, they look like Listen, I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you,
I literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes, it is up to them. And that's why I am saying that it is the same. Murdering someone for their difference is not good, whoever does it. It's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're black.
Guys, don't go to Tehran.
Guys, don't go to Tehran, Farrah says. Excuse me, what? You know what they do to women over there who step out of line? They gouge their eyes out. Okay? It's some punishment in the Quran. The religion of peace, Islam. you can't even begin to compare whatever perceived injustices there are in the United States in 2025 to the reality on the ground in the Islamic Republic of Iran. But Whoopi will not let it go. And notice in the second clip I'm going to play from the same conversation that it's all about her feelings.
Every day, we are worried. Do we have to be worried about our kids? Are our kids going to get shot because they're running through somebody's neighborhood? They are not big deals, and I don't mean to say they're not big deals to you, because that's not what I meant.
And they are not doing well there either. They are not doing well in Iran. They are not educated. They cannot property. They cannot leave States.
I'm talking about here.
Nobody wants to diminish the very real problems we have in this country. That is no one's intent. But I think it's important we remember there are places much darker than this country and people who deserve rights.
Not everybody feels that way. Not everybody feels that way. Listen, I'm sorry. You know, when you think about the fact that we got the vote in 1965.
Okay, they don't have free and fair elections in Iran. It's not even the same universe.
Yes.
They can't go out of their house. Women.
You know what? There's no way I can make you understand.
No, let me try. It's like try to reverse roles with a black person in this country, let's say, because I think that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Just try to understand from their point of view. From that point of view, this country does not do them well. Does not go to them.
I completely acknowledge that.
And we shouldn't compare atrocities.
If you're talking about Iran, of course, is doing worse things. But relatively speaking, it feels bad.
Okay, but I think you know that Iran is significantly
I guess we're going to come back and talk. We're going to come back and talk more about this.
I can't reason with you people. This is just how I feel. We can't let our own people, a la Tucker Carlson, devolve into the same illogic that we just saw on The View. That's my point with playing all of this. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right Show, your place for common sense conservatism, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., here on News Talk 840 KXNT. Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian, in the saddle this Juneteenth holiday. No, we don't observe Juneteenth here. We are at work, working hard. Both my firm, my office is open, and the show is on. So pleased to be here. Obviously, some developing situations that we are monitoring. I don't know. You saw this attack is an Iranian attack on a hospital in southern Israel. They didn't just hit it, by the way, with a ballistic missile. The ballistic missile had smaller munitions in it, photographs released by the IDF showing there was a series of cluster bombs. So they sent a missile that then carpet bombed a civilian area. And, you know, this is, by the way, it's classic. If you were listening last hour, you know, Whoopi Goldberg, who yesterday went on The View, and I guess her argument is that being a woman and being black in America in 2025 is something similar to being, you know, under the thumb of the Iranian regime in Iran. And the Iranian lady there on The View, Farah's like, what? But I guess there's this, a lot of people, even some conservatives, are saying after this, well, but look at what Israel did in Gaza. Israel bombed hospitals in Gaza. And have you seen the videos of a hospital in Gaza that has the tunnels going underneath where Sinwar was hanging out? They have it. Look, I mean, it's either AI or it's real. I haven't seen anybody dispute it being faked. I've seen the video. It's pretty compelling. Those tunnels do not appear to have any reasonable civilian purpose. It's not a big bomb shelter. designed to protect the occupants of the hospital. It's a small executive suite, maybe not the most luxurious, but intent, looks like a command post. It has communication devices. It has, food storage for prolonged, periods of hiding out. There's a problem that we have. We have the problem that we have right now, and it's occurring both on the left and on the right. This idea that, but Israel did this. But Israel, even in the wake of October 7th, what did all the protesters that supported Hamas in the immediate aftermath of October 7th was never about the Israeli response to October 7th. The celebrations by leftists in the U.S., by the Ilhan Omars of this world, the celebrations began right away. They began, I remember this on Saturday. It started that weekend. So what were they celebrating? Well, obviously they were celebrating, they wanted to see Israel damaged. They wanted to see Jews dead. They wanted to see all that. And so in the aftermath of that, every other argument that comes along is fundamentally disingenuous because it has nothing to do with the proportionality of the Israeli response to October 7th. It never acknowledges that Hamas is still holding hostages. It never discusses what reasonable terms of a peace deal would look like. They're still holding on to hostages, dead and alive. Okay, Hamas is. Look at, I'll say this, even with Ukraine. We get so hung up on, and this is, conservatives certainly are on this, have this problem. Conservatives will say, well, listen, look at all the things that the U.S. did to antagonize Russia. Well, okay, you may very well be right. But did Russia invade? Have they waged a bloody and senseless war of territorial aggression on a sovereign country? Can't we, and how many times have I said this on this program, can't we acknowledge that Ukraine is a deeply troubled country with lots of fraud, lots and lots of criminality, of bribery? Acknowledge that the Biden family was enriching themselves on deals that favored with the Ukrainian government. We can acknowledge all of that, and at the same time, not decide to black and white in a binary way, decide to view, Russia favorably. Two things can be true at the same time. And I think this comes from, I'm an attorney, right? And by the way, this concept, Robbie and I were talking about this during the break. It's actually very much applies. And I think more people who talk about politics should go to law school and should be trained to think like lawyers, because there is this thing called comparative fault. By the way, California has pure comparative fault. So you can collect something for your loss, even if you are maybe the other person was only 1% or 2% responsible. Fault and compensation are commensurate with the amount of liability that you have. Two sides can both be liable for something, but it isn't binary. It doesn't mean that it washes it out and that there's not a more liable or more responsible, more guilty party. I see, it's funny. I'm talking about him a few times now. Mike Cernovich, very smart guy, lives in Orange County in California, a very influential, I would say pro-Trump influencer. And he talks a lot and has over the last year or so, a lot about bad things that Israel has done. And he's smart to always couch it. Cernovich will say, you guys should see, there are some things, bad things that Israel's doing. We can't ignore it. Well, it's true. Don't ignore it. Israel has committed, there have been units that have done some terrible things. My understanding, those people are getting prosecuted inside Israel. It doesn't make Hamas the good guys. This is like saying that Abu Ghraib and what happened in Iraq makes the American military on par with Saddam Hussein's government. No one in their right mind could claim that. And I don't know if this is, I don't even know, Robbie, if this is the whole woke, right? I'm not going to get into it. I don't like that term, so I'm staying away from it. But there's some people on our side are starting to remind me a lot of the people on the other side. When you have Whoopi Goldberg saying, well, it was, we black people didn't get the vote until women didn't get the vote. And making it seem that, America's not that great of a place either. As if somehow that just wipes it out. It's like, well, it's the same and the same. This is absolutely crazy to me. So the conversation about anything actually in the world, foundationally for me, and maybe we'll get to this because it ties into immigration. There are people out there, and it's not on our side, but on the other side, there are people that fundamentally think that this country is bad, that think this country is evil, that think that, for example, enforcing immigration rules is, puts us on par with some of these, real dictatorships across the world. And I think the left believes this. I think there's people out there that actually genuinely are invested in thinking that America is awful. And this has always been a hallmark of the left. This has always been something that their side has pushed. The Vietnam War. I think we can look back and say the Vietnam War was a disaster, both strategically, militarily and humanistically. But how many leftists came out and protested and not the government, not the president, as much as they decided that America was evil. And they believed it. That's the problem. And that legacy of leftism is very strong and continuing now through this radicalized new Democratic Party. And on our side, we have to be, I think we have to be cautious and avoid it as much as we possibly can. Quick break here. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash, 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right.
The Sam & Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Hi, Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends, and welcome back. Sam@whatsrightshow.com is my email. We are here on Thursday, the 19th of June, and obviously monitoring the situation. To my point about the insane protests coming from primarily leftists in this country, yesterday there was a giant rally in New York City, in Times Square. And this is what they were chanting. Listen to this. Absolutely crazy.
Hands up Iran now! Hands up Iran now! Hands up Iran now! Hands up Iran now! Hands up Iran now!
And they're, okay, hands off Iran now. They're holding Iranian regime flags. I'll give you my analysis of this real fast. Just in a nutshell, Marxists in this country, and really the Democrats, the vocal Democrats, the socialist Democrats that are out there, will find any cause to protest as long as it is injurious to the government and to the nation of the United States. They don't care what it is. They'll protest ICE, tear down buildings in the pursuit of that. I saw this. There's a professor teaching at Harvard Law School, and she posted something that's been making the rounds, and it actually absolutely sums up everything that I've always been saying about these leftists. Her name is Alejandra Caraballo, or Caraballo, maybe is how you pronounce it. I don't care. It's a quote. I honestly don't care anymore if this country destroys itself and burns down to the ground. The current form of the United States is incompatible with democracy or human rights. It no longer has any legitimacy to govern, and I'll dance on its grave. Let something better rise from the ashes. Now, if you ever doubt why we need to defund Harvard, well, this would be a prime exhibit for one of the many reasons. But how many times have I mentioned that the left just wants to burn down the West? That when you look at mass immigration from trash countries and people coming here, why would Biden allow criminals to run amok in the country? Why when they come out and protest, do they have to destroy things? Why? And the answer is they are revolutionaries. They want to eliminate everything. They want to tear everything down. They don't want to reform. They want to cancel. So that's, if you begin to look at everything through that lens, then it starts to make sense. Why are they out there supporting Hamas? Why are they out there supporting the Iranian Republic that is actually sending barrages of missiles every night into civilian areas? Why do they support Hezbollah? Why do they support every rogue, actor, regime, group out there that seeks to destroy us? Because they're allies in the act of destruction. They're by the way, very strange bedfellows. You get people out there wearing, gay pride, lapel pins and shirts and stuff, which is going to be an awkward reckoning when the hardline, Shia clerics come to power in the U.S. Those allies are going to be the first to go. But this is typically what happens and after a revolution takes place. Well, I'm just saying, right? This is what the left is. They do want everything destructed. They do want everything torn down because they say that it's because democracy has ended. But democracy selected Trump. This government that we have today happened in spite of all of the best efforts of our adversaries and of the Democratic Party to interfere with democracy, right? Trump was supposed to be in prison if the Democrats had gotten their way. He shouldn't even been allowed to run, they said. But he did. He ran. And in spite of tremendous fraud, no doubt, out there, he still prevailed and won the popular vote. And these people are out there screaming that this is the end of democracy and they need to just rebuild from the ground up. The current form of the United States is incompatible with democracy or human rights. It no longer has any legitimacy to govern. Legitimacy to govern. We the people have spoken. The problem with the left is they don't like what democracy brought. They don't want the will of the people to be heard. The Democratic Party doesn't have open and fair primaries where they democratically select a nominee. They don't trust the people. If you're a teacher in a teachers union, big news, of course, this week, Randi Weingarten finally dumped from the DNC. They probably can't afford her anymore because, the DNC is now broke. But the big news, okay, Randi Weingarten, who's really a raging communist, biatch, gets booted from the Democratic Party, but she's still at the head of the teachers union. If you're a teacher, your dues get taken out of your paycheck, whether you like it or not, for the sake of collective bargaining. And guess what? You have a say that your national chapter of your teachers union is run by a raging communist who gives 99% of her money, of your money, treating it like it's hers, gives it to the Democratic Party and other radical causes. Again, they don't care about your vote. They don't care about democracy. They don't care about listening to you or the will of their membership. Unions, a lot of them, run very undemocratically. They're run like little dictatorships. The left is dictatorial. That's a fact. And sometimes candidly, again, it worries me a little bit when the right flirts with that too. I mean, Tucker Carlson has like this strange hard-on for Vladimir Putin, yeah, remember, Tucker's done this before. I keep coming back to this, and if you miss the first part of the show, you got to listen to my open. Get the podcast, go to Spotify, go to Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, find the What's Right show. But remember when Tucker went to Moscow and he went to the grocery store, he's like, oh my gosh, stuff here is so cheap. Wow. It's like, I remember traveling to the Czech Republic, then Czechoslovakia after it was liberated. And yeah, everything was cheap. It was all run by the government. And it, didn't mean that it was a good living. It didn't mean that people actually had money to buy things. It was just cheap because I went in and I converted hard currency to Czech crowns, which is precisely what happened to him visiting Moscow. It was just, the whole thing was so ridiculous. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Let's hear some good news when we come back. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Greetings, friends. Welcome back. My email, sam@whatsrightshow.com. sam@whatsrightshow.com. Great to be here. By the way, The View, one of my favorite shows on television, The Gift That Keeps on Giving, hosted Arnold Schwarzenegger the other day. Did you have a chance to see this? Now, I said I was going to cover some good news because this was actually really beautifully done. They tried to bait him. This was on Tuesday. And Joy Behar thought, okay, we've got a Trump-hating, rhino Republican in the studio. We're going to get Schwarzenegger to dump on this ICE stuff, this immigration enforcement stuff. Now, I have always maintained to you folks that the reason that this doesn't work on legal immigrants is because legal immigrants, it was tough. It was hard, and they're offended even more than natural born, third, fourth, fifth, 100th generation, right? They had to get here to the country, and it was not an easy path. They're incensed by illegal immigration. So here's the conversation, how it started. Joy Behar asking Arnold Schwarzenegger and him going a little bit off script.
You're an immigrant in this country. Yeah. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ICE is doing when you see the videos of it?
Well, I tell you, you said that the immigrant, I'm so proud and happy that I was impressed by the American people like that. I mean, imagine I came over here with the age of 21, with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that. Yeah. Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and this is the land of opportunity. And I think because I'm such a proud American and a proud immigrant that came to America, I was asked to do, on July 4th, a big speech, the keynote speech at Mount Vernon, where George Washington was laid to rest, and where he lived and all that, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, the existence of America. And I will be doing the speech there. They asked me because I'm an immigrant, and there will be 7,000 some people there, and there will be people that will be sworn in and will become citizens that day.
That's great.
So it's really a great celebration. And this is what this is all about, is to celebrate people becoming Americans and coming to America.
He's not answering the question that was posed by Joy Behar. So she gets back in there and reminds, well, what about now? What about now? And how are we treating immigrants now versus how you were treated? And keeps trying to bait him to criticize Trump. So Arnold finally has to give the answer.
I just think the world of the great kind of a history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal. And those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest. And you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can to keep things clean and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do, rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant, to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. You have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever.
They were speechless. This is fantastic stuff. And by the way, this is the Arnold that we all fell in love with, right? This is the guy that, you know, that people in California, you know, sent to the governor's mansion. You know, it's not the late stage kind of politically decrepit Schwarzenegger that we've seen in the last several years. So anyway, this is exactly right. The reason, though, I'm going to this is very important. The reason, though, the left is protecting illegal immigrants who do bad things here. Why? When you talk to people about this and they know maybe that you're conservative or that you favor, at the very least, immigration enforcement, they may come to you and say, are you okay with this? Are you okay with this, Sam? And your answer, I think, always should be, well, let me turn that around. Why do you think that people who come here illegally and then on top of it commit crimes should stay? And the reason, you know, I'm convinced of it, the reason that the left, at least the people that are pulling the strings and the people behind the auto pen in the Biden White House that were making this policy of allowing all these trash people to flood the country, known criminals, terrorists even, was because they fear actual real democracy. The party that cloaks itself as the defenders of democracy actually wants to tear this democracy down. And the flood of illegal immigrants, particularly the troublemakers, is just one prong of a faceted approach to bringing about the destruction of our republic. And I don't think this is like a conspiracy theory on my part. I just think they're very open about it. And the thing that I read, that little excerpt, that tweet by the Harvard professor saying, you know what, Americans are irredeemable. It's done. We just burned to the ground. That's lots of people on the left think that way. And the difference between us and them is that at no time during Obama's presidency, during Biden's presidency, did I hate America. I wanted to save America from Obama and from Biden. I don't hate. I never, ever. You folks, you know me. We've spent the last 4 years together, and it wasn't always pretty. But at no point did I lose faith in our great democratic experiment. I've certainly thought that the process ought to get cleaned up. And by the way, with all the news that's come out about the hanky-panky voting stuff and China's interference, I think it's more apparent than ever how fundamentally under attack our democracy was. But I wanted to save our country from that. Very, very, very important. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. The What's Right Show is brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. We come back. The FBI report on the China-Biden ballot plot. This is absolutely stupefying and really underscores exactly how bad things were for a period of time here in this country. Don't go anywhere. You do not want to miss this. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome back. So the Washington Times detailed a report from the FBI alleging China mass-produced fake U.S. driver licenses for purposes of voting fraud. According to the allegations, the Chinese Communist Party planned to create voter identities for Chinese residents in the U.S., enabling them to vote via fraudulent mail-in ballots, supporting former President Joe Biden. The FBI learned of this in August of 2020, but the intelligence reports were recalled for unspecified reasons. Oh, I wonder, Robbie, what those could be. When I tell you how bad China is, believe me. And because we don't just focus on one thing at a time here, and we explain on this program how everything's interconnected, remember that in his first term, Trump did basically kind of three things at the same time. He took out ISIS. He put Iran in a box, okay? He literally chopped their nuts off financially, made Iran just absolutely miserable. All that was, by the way, reversed later under the Biden administration. And then finally, if we're talking about sort of big initiatives, and I also, when we're talking about the Middle East, the Abraham Accords, yes. And then finally, the third big thing was he was making friends with North Korea. And, you know, it's I know because, and I'm bringing up North Korea specifically because there are a lot of conservatives out there going, well, Trump just picking and choosing. He's, he wants to be friends with Rocket Man, but then Iran is building a weapon and he's going to bomb him. The entire strategy here, if I can speak to the doofuses in the back, the entire strategy that Trump has is to isolate China. This is why he wants to bring about peace with Ukraine. He wants to get on good terms with Putin. Again, I'm not speaking out of both sides of my mouth. Don't send me that email, please. Like, oh, Sam, you're calling Putin a dictator, and now you're saying we need to be friends with him. Yeah, I do, because life is not simple. This isn't, a little fairy tale where you've got the good guy 100% of the time, the bad guy 100% of the time. You have comparative fault for things, but what matters, what dictates what you do, is strategy. The Chinese are our real adversaries. That regime is the one to keep all eyes on. What if right now we go and smash up Iran, clean it up, get it done, install the Shah, fine, whatever. He installs himself, semantics, okay? Bring calm in the Middle East and be able to divert all of our resources and attention to the, Indo-Pacific and this and the Asian theater. That's where, I'm just saying, by the way, if along the way we can make nice with Russia, I'm also convinced in no small part that right now, how Trump is treating, as being a badass with the mullahs and the Ayatollah in Iran, where he's like, 60th day, you walked away from the table, you're done. I also think this is a little bit of performance art intended to bring both the Ukrainians and the Russians to the table. They're watching this, and now if Trump acts decisively with Iran and then goes, all right, done that, now Vladimir, well, Vladimir and Volodymyr, yeah, right, Putin and Zelensky, okay, now, gents, let's get this thing moving. Right, this is what I think is a part of the calculation what the U.S. is doing. But I don't want to get too far down that. So my point is, Trump understands that China is the foe. This plot here is just one of thousands of ongoing investigations that implicate China as the most malicious actor within our borders. And this is just our country. They do this everywhere in the world. They are quietly gobbling up the planet. They are the most expansive and malicious empire that we have seen in the last 100 years. So I'm pointing all this out. All right. So just when you're looking at what's going on with Iran, understand there's China stuff going on in the background, and understand that Biden, who received millions of dollars via Chinese entities, was on the take from China, was compromised by China. His administration was compromised by China, and China was helping him win. And now we have an avalanche of uncovered voter fraud from the 2020 election, and we realize that people like Bill Barr were leading us by the nose. And even people like me, where I believed that Bill Barr was telling the truth, now it's manifestly evident that he did in fact have evidence of voter fraud in the 2020 election and lied to everyone about it. The level of deceit in the last 4.5 years in this country is astonishing. And it's all beginning to kind of drip come out and come forward. Now, I'll leave you with this humorous exchange that occurred yesterday on CNN. Ana Navarro, herself a Nicaraguan immigrant, who says that prices on milk and vegetables will go up because, there's not going to be any brown people to do the work. It was such a fundamentally racist thing. Ana Navarro used to also be a Republican, but she's become a complete commie pinko. Listen to this.
And look, what's going to happen here is that we're going to find that milk gets a lot higher, because I don't know if any of you have ever been in a dairy farm. It is god-awful work. We're going to see that groceries and vegetables are higher. We're going to see an effect in our economy, because whether people like it or not, whether Americans acknowledge it or not, undocumented immigrants are an integral part of our society and our economy.
Okay. Enforce ICE rules and the prices of milk will go up. Because you're not going to have, this is the implication, you're not going to have cheap illegal immigrants to do the work. Now, by the way, I don't know if you've seen real wages for American workers are actually real, like the actual real wage, usable income going up for the first time in years. And white people, okay, it's just such a stupid term. It's not about white or brown. It's about legal or illegal. Legal immigrants, Americans, etc., are taking these jobs. But there was a farmer somewhere in the heartland who took issue with, Anna Navarro's silly rant here, with his milk cows in the background from his barn. He broadcast this message.
Hey, Anna, guess what? I'm a white guy milking my own dairy cows like I have for 40 years, and it's not god-awful work. It's God's calling in my life. How dare you insult us small dairy farmers saying that only illegals will milk cows? I do it. I've done it every day since I was 5 almost, and I love it. It's not god-awful work. It's god-awful listening to you.
Now that is an American patriot. And let me tell you, folks, I love this exchange because people are starting to get fed up and are seeing this immigration debate for what it is. On one side, the leftists obviously looking to destroy our country with an unauthorized mass invasion, which ramped up over the last 4 years under Joe Biden. But then also the party, the Democratic Party, that purported to be a supporter of livable wages for working class Americans, has just revealed itself to have, one, complete contempt for the working man, and two, because with, snide comments like, who's going to do the work? Well, I don't know. Americans are going to do the work. What do you think? Everybody just wants to sit around and be lazy. So contempt. But the other part about it is that it's obvious, and this is why big labor, I never understood why big labor went all in with Democrats. And I started to understand when labor, supported Trump, recognizing that in order to bring up wages, in order to make money certainly more available for working class folks, you cannot compete against illegal, under the table, below minimum wage a labor force. You just can't do it. And so this is all coming together now, finally revealing itself for what it is. All right, folks, got to wrap this up. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, another great show. Great to be with you as always here on News Talk 840 KXNT.